Okay, I was just making sure we weren't, you weren't waiting on me to say something.
Lehigh or
get
way up to
CNG.
90th to go to CNG.
That's true, because the network, CNG network's not that great.
We good? We on? Okay. Welcome, everybody, this evening. Apologize for the late start, and I'm going to delay things a little bit further. We do have to have a quick Community Development and Renewal Agency meeting. So I'll call that meeting to order. First, I look for a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Yeah,
What?
it's for tonight's meeting. But I'll make a motion to have the minutes of April 27, 2022 be prepared and distributed to each member of the Redevelopment Agency Board. The board will have 10 days to review the minutes and submit any changes to the secretary. If after 10 days there are no changes, the minutes will stand approved. If there are changes, the process will be followed until all changes are made and the board is in agreement.
Motion by Sherry, second by Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Move on to item 2.1, discussion and consideration of a resolution approving an amendment to the, my agenda cuts off, to the interlocal agreement, that interlocal agreement. Chase.
Thank you, board members. So this item is on your agenda tonight for consideration of an amendment to the interlocal agreement between the agency and Salt Lake County. Just by way of background, in 2015, the agency entered into an interlocal agreement with the county for the sharing of tax increment that could be used to incentivize development within the Harriman Business Center project area. That agreement was amended in part in 2017, and what I mean by in part is we worked with the county in amending that to change the commercial and residential acreages as well as the boundary, and that was a mutual amendment. We signed that, however, it never got executed by the county. In working with them to try to track that down, they acknowledged that they participated in the preparation of that amendment, but just never found the signed agreement. So in lieu of just signing that retroactively, they have worked with us again on capturing those items that were previously amended, as well as amending the plan area to carve out a kind of a remnant parcel that had been split. So background on that, when RSL finalized some of their plat, they split a parcel and the boundary for the project area cut through that parcel. And state law does not allow a parcel to be split within a project area. So the county said you either have to take the whole parcel out or just add the rest of it. So it's really a kind of a clerical amendment in that regard, as you're just capturing the rest of that acreage. So the amendment before you today captures those amendments from 2017, which again adjusted the ratio of commercial and residential, as well as the unit count, and then readjust the boundary. One item I wanted to point out with regard to the unit count is this makes no effect on the entitlements that the city has already granted, because there's a development agreement in place that restricts what units can be built there in that area. So this really just captures and maximizes the benefit of the tax increment that the city will receive, or rather the agency will receive from the county. Any questions on that?
Nope.
And the county has already approved it. So really your option tonight is to just sign on the dotted line, or
We just need them to sign it too, or did they?
they
ask
have
us?
already
Oh,
signed it. Yep,
yes.
sent it to us, so
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Chase.
thank you.
I'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R2022-02, approving an amendment to the interlocal corporation agreement with Salt Lake County to approve funds to carry out the Harriman Business Center Community Development Project Area.
Motion by Teddy,
Second.
second by Sherry. Teddy?
Aye.
Sherry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Okay, with that, we will adjourn the CDRA meeting for this evening. Thank you. Bear with us just a minute. We just got to reset tech, and then we'll get going again. We good to go? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our general meeting tonight for City Council. We will open with item 4.1, a Pledge of Allegiance by Chief Carr.
All rise, please. You'll join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Chief. We'll move on to item 4.2, City Council comments and recognitions. Look to council.
I just want to give a thanks out to the league, the Utah League of Cities and Towns, for a wonderful event last week. We got to go down to St. George for their mid-year conference. Lots of great training and networking, and we had a lot of fun and some after-hour events and stuff, and so it was a very enjoyable time. I know we participated pretty good as a city as well, so thanks for our city staff that helped us get there, and then thanks to the league for putting that on. So.
Steve, Sherry? Okay. We'll move on to item 5, public comment. Audience members may bring any item to the City Council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law prohibits the council from acting on items that do not appear on the agenda. Public comments for this meeting will also be conducted electronically. Any person interested in addressing the council may submit a comment by emailing recorder@harriman.org or by visiting harriman.org/agendasandminutes, where there is a link to fill out an online public comment form. Your statement will be incorporated into the public record. So with that, I'll open it for public comment. Seeing none tonight, we will move on to item 6, City Council Board and Committee reports.
I'll just quickly put on that Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling. Just general, first quarter numbers are good. We're in the same boat as most boards I serve in, or this council, that we're looking for trucks that never seem to come because they're backed up on producing. So, and we spent a large chunk of our meeting this month on compensation plans and things like that, finalizing up the studies for, we attacked it in a 3-phase and just implementation, where we did drivers first, and then we moved down the line of different people, and we just implemented the third phase of our salary adjustments. And it's rough. The salary adjustments have to be pretty high, but it's because it's rough to try and pay for everything if you don't get them. So we did implement some salary adjustments to maintain and just keep our employees. So that's my report.
Okay, thank you, Sherry.
I don't know how much detail to get into this. Regarding the Harriman Arts Council, one of the things that's been really illustrative in the past month or so is going through line items in the budget that has been allocated for several years and trying to understand why certain expenses are the way they are. And it seems like, as with a lot of things, once a pattern or a solution kind of gets established in government, that just kind of has the momentum to continue on unless we challenge it and look into it. So I sent the challenge to the Arts Council to really look at how their budget is being spent, what is being spent on, how it's being allocated, that kind of a thing. And it's clear that there are some huge expenses that caused us to look at some things a little different way, as well as some shortfalls in how the budget is set up. One of the things that really stood out was, for example, the 2 youth shows that are done in the summer, one for the younger children, one for the teens. The sound budget that has been allocated for paying for the sound equipment was $10,500, and it's just kind of been that way. The cost to rent the sound equipment for those 2 shows is $10,600. So the budget for the entire shows is $100 less than what it costs just to rent the sound equipment for the shows. So everything that has been done on every summer show for these youth shows has come from out of pocket from everybody else. That's just mind-boggling to me that that's how we've decided to support those events. Even a couple $1,000s for each show would go a huge distance to helping support them. So I had them go back, we reviewed all that stuff, and they're submitting some requests that I think as a council we probably need to have a longer conversation about, some adjustments to their budget on the go forward. One of the things that I think applies to kind of the suggestion I made earlier at the beginning of the meeting for us to talk about is between what the Arts Council and Harriman Events are spending for sound equipment each year, we're spending about $63,000 a year to rent sound equipment. To purchase equipment that would do the same thing is about 80 grand.
Great use of money.
Yeah, so I think it behooves us to have a conversation about the budget in general, and if there's a way that we can save the city a substantial portion of that $63,000 that's being spent each year on a go-forward basis, that sure helps supplement or replace some of the cost increases that the Arts Council is asking for. And in fact, if they didn't have those sound budget expenses as part of their budget, they probably wouldn't even need any increases. So I think it's rare in municipal government we get to do something that not only enhances the production value, saves money, creates cost savings, pays for itself, has a break even of 2 years or less, where you have so many wins in a row. It's a difficult thing to accomplish in municipal government. So I think there's a lot to be said about this conversation and to get into it more deeply, but I appreciate the efforts that go in from all of the various groups that make up the Harriman Arts Council. You know, they represent a lot of subgroups. I appreciate all the time and effort and work went into justifying each and every line item of what they're asking for and why. I don't think they've ever done that before. So I think that's a really good way for us to be looking at all of our budgets instead of just saying, well, it was this year, so we'll add on 2% and do that next year. And I think we should be challenging those assumptions and see if there's ways we can be more efficient as a government. So that's my comments there.
Thank you, Steve.
We got to meet yesterday morning as a sewer board. Couple key items that came out of there. Our impact fees are decreasing, such as we're getting more units, so the cost is getting distributed out, and we have our residential services are actually being decreased in our impact fees, a small increase on some commercial. We talked about the Hidden Valley expansion line on the southwest area. That's out in the Bluffdale. Doesn't really deal with us much, but we are going over the canal, and there's some nuances there with some new development coming in there. They have quite a few homes going in that south area of Bluffdale, close to the gravel pit there. We did talk about the Teton-Jackson development. We did lots of reimbursement agreements through those pipelines and increases, and also how 118th is going to look and what's going to happen on there. So we also did talk about our compensation plan for employees, summer jobs, vehicle trucks, having the same constraints there through the same service district areas. And then also the new state regulations on our summer jobs and summer hires for the new CDL stuff. And I know the city's looking at that too, of like what those impacts and fees are going to be to train and hire new people throughout the season. And is it smarter to keep them on a deferred employment status rather than summer hires? So that's kind of some of the things that we're dealing with there at the sewer board. Steve, also we had a meeting on Wednesday night with Strata. And a lot of information there about fiber and what their offerings are. And I know that the work group is still bringing that stuff back, but we had a lot of good information on that through the weekend, through the last week, so that's my reports.
And I might add, just to your strata conversation, I think we decided, we kind of gave them direction to conduct a survey. That they're going to put together a survey, help us put together a survey that we're going to send out as a city to kind of get the feedback from the residents as far as we're on that line, possibly where to be. Right? Is that correct, Nathan? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, they have a general survey instrument they use. They're going to provide to us. We'll tweak it for our purposes and send it out.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll move on to item 7, consent agenda, and just look for a motion to approve consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Sherry,
Second.
second by Teddy. Steve?
Yes, but I'd like to make a comment after.
Okay. Sherry?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Go ahead, Steve.
In regards to item 7.7 regarding Juneteenth, I just wanted to clarify one point about it, is that we're going to be formally adopting it as a city-observed holiday in terms of PTO and kind of a city administrative sides in 2023, but we are not ignoring it for 2022. We're celebrating it, we're happy. We're just not formally observing it as an administrative body for employee holidays until next year. So that, just wanted to be clarify that one part, so.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 8.1, discussion and consideration of a request by Palmer Helston to amend Title 10 of City Code to permit flag lot development on a minimum of 2 acres on minor collector streets in the ag zones. Michael.
Okay, thank you. As you know, as a legislative item, an amendment to our zoning regulation. This is an item that comes to you following a public hearing with the Planning Commission, which they recommended approval of. This is a very minor amendment to our existing flag lot regulation. Working with the property owner, the applicant, Palmer Helston, he understood why the city had curbed flag lot development in the city. And yet we still have residents like Mr. Helston who have large properties that are difficult to develop in any other fashion other than the ability to do a flag lot. The one difficulty that he has on his property is he's on a minor collector. And so we're proposing to maintain that restriction. However, if the proposed flag lot property has 2 acres or larger, the original parcel that's being subdivided, then it would be eligible for a flag lot on a minor collector. Now, we actually studied this and looked at, well, how many properties might potentially be affected by this amendment if it were approved by the city? And as you saw in your staff report, we identified about 24 properties in the city. So it's, again, very limited impact. Now, when the Planning Commission reviewed this, there was discussion about limiting the proposal even further and removing the 8.25 zone eligibility. So the Planning Commission's motion was to keep the 2 acre minimum, but restrict it to just the half-acre and the 1 acre zones. That's their proposal to you. It was a unanimous recommendation that was 6-0. But as you can see, if the council did decide to re-include the 8.25, we're only adding about a dozen new properties, and it doesn't change that 2 acre minimum. I think that maybe was a point that was a little bit of confusion with the Planning Commission, is in allowing it in the 8.25 zone, it doesn't restrict or take away that 2 acre minimum. So you're always going to start with a 2 acre lot when you're introducing the flag lot. It does produce a very low density development pattern, which the city is looking for opportunities to do that within our community. It also creates large lots for development, which is something that the Planning Commission really supported. Also, because of the vehicle movement on a flag lot is always forward, you're always entering the property in a forward motion and exiting the property in a forward motion, we're able to maintain public safety. The location and the design of the flag lot would still meet all other engineering standards of the city. So we worked closely with the engineering department on making sure that this would not compromise public safety in that regard. So again, the Planning Commission is recommending 6-0 for approval. However, they did restrict it to the half acre and the 1 acre. Mr. Helston's application did not include that. His original request was just 2 acre lots in the agricultural zones.
So I'll lead off on this because this has been my issue forever. I bring back flag lots every other day. But, and this is, these things right here were the reasons why. And I know it was denied previously by previous council because they were concerned about the Pandora's box. Everyone with 1 acre is going to want to come back in and rezone and things like this. And I sympathize with that because that was never my intent. My intent was to always to take these areas that have been, created, have like this one right down here. All this stuff has been developed all around it, but it disables them from doing certain things. So I would say that I'm supportive of this. However, I do think we should add the A25 in, and this is the reason why, because you still are required to meet all the other flag lot or things. You can't say, okay, well, great, I'm on A25, so I can put 4 houses back here on a flag lot, because you can't do that because you still have to comply with only 2 houses on it. So I don't think it will cause any kind of an issue, because I can't anticipate somebody coming in and say, oh, okay, then we'll just do 1 little lot back here and the other and we'll keep it 1 3/4. Or could we do any kind of language, Chase, that because zoning trumps, and if it is A25, can we create this to say if it's an A25, you still couldn't divide it up into anything less than half an acre or whatever the Planning Commission's real intent was? I mean, we could say that so we still maintain the integrity of the larger lots, even if they're in a zoned A25, we can specify that, right? So, I mean, because then I think it's in harmony with what the Planning Commission's vision was, that we don't ever want anything to be split below a half. And, but it still allows them to do something with additional with their parcel.
And to be clear, this is not the same amendment that came before the council
Yeah.
last year.
Completely different.
We're restricting to agricultural zones, whereas in previously it was in all residential types in the city, and we did not have that 2 acre minimum, which again is ensuring that we have a large lot pattern when it's done.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, that would be my only difference in what the Planning Commission said. I would think that we should just, because it's really not, actually it says 24 lots, but it's really not, because this one right here.
Right.
Yes.
That's city-owned,
Yeah.
so it's only 23.
this initial was just looking at location
Nice.
and area, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
I just don't think it's an issue, especially if we could add some sort of language that would say, but you couldn't go smaller than a half an acre regardless of what your zoning is.
I like it. I like it.
Those are my comments.
so it's on for action. It's up to
Any other discussion? Steve, Teddy?
I swear this is probably what, the 5th or 6th time this has come up
me, I know.
in my time on the council. And it seems like every time we talk about it, there's a good reason to do them, there's a good reason to prevent them, there's a good reason to compromise on this one and not on that one. And it as much as we've tried to write an ordinance that makes sense, it always comes back because it doesn't make sense somewhere. So I find myself consistently questioning, again, why do we have this ordinance? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? What is the whole point? And I guess this, the 2 acre minimum, I kind of get that, right? We want it. But I guess I still don't know, and this isn't really the question you're asking, but it just goes along with this. I don't understand why, if there's a 2 or a 3 or a 5 acre parcel that, has a flag out to the main road, why that suddenly produces a lot more risk than a driveway that backs out on a main road. I mean, there's driveways on 7300 West where people back out into the road versus, to Mike's point, driving forward out of it. And why we would say you've got all this acreage back there and you can only subdivide it into half-acre lots, but you can only do 2 of them if you've got all this acreage. It just seems an inefficient and inappropriate use of the land, and it makes parcels that aren't in harmony with all the rest of the development. I mean, you have all this A25 development all around there and a lot of quarter-acre lots on houses, and then we're gonna retro do some big piece of lot with 2 huge parcels on it. It just,
Yeah.
it seems out of harmony with good neighborhood planning to restrict really large parcels to only 2 units just because there's this flag. It's hard for me to, I spend a lot of time really trying to figure out these flags, and honestly, I just don't understand why that's this big problem. I don't understand where the big public safety risk is. If it's not a risk in this case, why is it a risk in other cases? And why isn't, a public safety consideration part of the ordinance, right? Because it's not. We're saying that's a reason to make this exception. Well, if it's make an exception, we should probably codify if there's, engineering says it's okay if you have an in-out, or if there's a certain distance between a driveway and another driveway, or something like that to make it okay. I don't know. It just seems to me if I got 2 acres and I'm in an A25 zone, why do I only want to put 2 houses back there? It
For
just
sure.
seems so odd to me.
Part of it is access, right? But I'm disagreeing with you on this too, because it's like some of these, I went in to drop my granddaughter off in a HOA over there, and I was like, I had to back out of the road because it's too tight for me to even try to turn my truck around.
Right.
But you can access all those houses off it, so it's like, but right now you can't do that because the street ordinances, and there's a lot of encumbrances on that. So I understand what you're asking. Michael might have a better explanation.
So Steve, are you okay with this as is, and we kind of look at flag lots down the road again? I mean, we're talking down the road. When we look
Oh,
at, when we
man,
look at
there's so much
chickens,
to go
probably when we
through.
look at chickens again.
Yeah, I'm okay with this modification, except for the fact, I feel like if there's a 2-acre parcel and we say that you can only put 2 houses back there in an A25 area, that just seems inconsistent with the other land use decisions that have been made around it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I just think that's going to merit a whole other conversation with planning commission to go more than that.
And I
That's what
get
I'm
it.
saying.
I don't want to make an approval here that lets the applicant say, great, this is awesome, now I can move forward with an application, thinking that they only get 2 lots, when I don't think that's necessarily the right use for the property.
Yeah, and the current applicant is on an A1 right now, so he's actually zoned at A1.
So, okay, A1.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he's currently zoned at an A1, so this will allow him to put another home on the property. So it does solve his issue, but I don't disagree with you. We need to look at it going forward and understand.
but here's the thing, it has to be at least 2 acres so that you can do A1 zoning, right? I mean, it just seems, if it's anything more than 2 acres, if it's 3 acres, why can't they do 3 1-acre lots if it's A1?
Right.
Or 6 half-acre lots if it's A.5?
And I think the difficulty is not everyone is ready for, selling their property and doing conventional subdivision development, right?
Sure.
So this is kind of more of an interim, kind of a light development pattern, which again, from my time here in the city, it seems like we're always anxious for encouraging lower density development patterns in our community where we can get them, and the larger lots. So
And it
that
creates
does
that.
seem to be consistent with that
Yeah.
value. I agree, if somebody is able to accumulate property and do a conventional subdivision under a quarter-acre lot or a half-acre lot.
That's how you handle it, yeah.
And that would be another,
Subdivision.
yeah, another process that we could accommodate.
Let me just play a little devil's advocate with that conversation. If somebody has and again, maybe it didn't apply. If you have an individual piece that's 5 acres, and somebody has a 1 acre, and they buy a 2 acre, and they buy another 2 acre, now they've accumulated, we would give the rights to somebody who accumulated, but not somebody who had the 5 acres to start with.
Right.
It just seems inconsistent.
Well, only because of the access, right? If they have the access point, if they have the ability to build a full road, then yes, they could do a conventional subdivision.
The access.
It's that access point is the problem, right?
I think this goes all the way back to our general plan, where what's the intent and purpose of that land? Is it actual agricultural, and we're looking at 1 to 2 homes? Or is it residential, where you want the quarter-acre lots? And you say you do have a flag lot with 3 acres or 5 acres, and you have 1 access point, but do you really want 4 houses back there in that ag land? I think it's just a bad neighborhood and bad planning at that point.
I would agree, but most of the A1 has been largely kind of a holding default zone for a lot of this area.
True.
And as applications have come in, you can see almost all of those are A25. They're originally A1, and they've all been modified to A25. I don't know, if I was the applicant and I had land and I had a bunch of acreage behind my house and there's a reasonable access, right? Not it's 200 feet long one way, that's prohibitive, right? But, if there's a reasonable access for cars to get in and out of there, I don't know why we would make it different development than the rest of it. So
Yeah.
maybe that's another question for another time, and I apologize for going
No.
off on a tangent here, but I don't want to hold up this modification. I think it's fine, but I think there's a broader discussion to be had there, and I hate having to bring it back again because it just feels like hitting my head with a hammer. But I don't know. Maybe we just wait until let exception requests come and deal with them as they come. Maybe that's the easier way to do it.
I don't disagree with what you're saying at all, because it's like, yeah, but why does it matter if they access 4 homes off of that skinny road when it's done all over the city off of a skinny road if it's an HOA? Yeah, for sure, I understand exactly what you're saying. But I do believe that part of the reason it was a recommendation for approval at the Planning Commission is because there's always, part of the inception of this new flag lot idea was right before I was put on the council, and it was changed then, and part of it was to try and preserve some of our larger lots in our community. Mm-hmm. We didn't want to slice and dice them all. We wanted to have some larger lots in our community, and this provides a way for that. If you look around Harriman, good luck going to find a good acre lot. But this provides a way that we can offer a few acre lots in our community and kind of add that. And I understand that, yeah, this is primarily an A25, and I understand that. But it also allows a little bit of variety in different communities too, to say, well, we would like to have some larger lots, and it would be nice. And the only way, quite frankly, you'll ever get the larger lots is if somehow we legislate that so that we say, no, these areas, it's okay to have a large lot here and there and intermix them in. So I think it's that part of it I think is okay. And I really believe that's the only reason it came unanimous, is because they felt like it still preserved some of the larger lots in our city.
I can't argue with that at all.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said. It's completely reasonable. And I still think there's reasonable argument for people to come in and ask for another exception.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. And if somebody on an A25 or something like that wants to come in and do what Mr. Helson has done and come before us and say, this seems to make sense to me, can you do that? I think that's reasonable.
And maybe we just wait for that.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to solve it ahead of time.
Yeah, but are you guys okay with, I do think we should just include all 23, well, there's 24, but one's a city.
Yeah.
And then I think it's okay to say we would like them to have a half acre minimum of the lots, so that's in harmony with what's recommended. And then if at some point they want to come in and make their case of why more should be, why the flag lot should be more, allow more, then we look at that and have a discussion about that.
And I think that's respecting the opinion of the
I do
planning
too. I
commission
think
too
it's
right
in
now, their
harmony with
intent.
that.
Yeah,
And I think
okay.
we stay in line. Okay. Sherry, I'll let you make a motion then.
No, you made good points. I appreciate that. So let me find the right one. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2022-17, amending Title 10 of the Harriman City Code to permit flag lot developments on a minimum of 2 acres on minor collector streets in agricultural zones. Do I need to add the other?
With
I
a
don't.
minimum lot size of 1/2 acre?
With a minimum lot size of 1/2 acre.
And that's grabbing your 825 still, right?
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
that, with that motion.
Yeah, and that includes all of those 2 acre parcels.
Right, right.
Okay, motion by Sherry,
Second,
second by Steve. Steve?
yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion carries. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mr. Helson, we appreciate it.
Good.
Good.
And he's ready to go. He's ready
I
to
can
do a
tell.
subdivision.
He's gonna go start building right now.
Redemption's open.
Okay, we'll move on to item 8.2, discussion and consideration of a request by Harriman City to amend Title 10 of City Code regarding naming of residential and agricultural zones.
And I did not prepare a PowerPoint for this. This is something that we have briefed the city council on before. Again, the planning commission reviewed this text amendment, which does not change any of the regulations of the city, just simply the naming of our agricultural and residential zones, trying to create more consistency, hoping that we've created some names that are easier to understand what their intent is and what they mean. So again, Planning Commission recommended 6-0 that this be approved by the City Council tonight.
I don't disagree, and I think that this is long overdue. I love that they're changing the names so they make more sense.
I've got to relearn them all again. I knew the other ones.
Me too. It's a better naming convention, and it unifies how we identify agriculture and residential zones, the exact same convention.
Yep.
And it just makes our zoning all clear and good. I appreciate all the work that our staff went in to try and figure this out. There were a whole bunch of other alternatives, but I think this is the right way to go.
Okay, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2022-18, amending Title 10 of the Harriman City Code regarding the renaming of residential and agricultural zones.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Teddy. Teddy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for all your work on that. And Clinton, too, all your staff on that. Thank you to all of them. Item 8.3, discussion and consideration of the creation of the Diversity Inclusion Advisory Board. Myself and Tammy are going to take this one.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In February and March of this year, Council held some in-depth discussions during the work meeting to determine if there was interest in the creation of a Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Board, recognizing the diversity throughout the community and encouraging inclusion. Should the council decide that they would like to approve the creation of the Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Board, there would be a set of bylaws and a formal framework put in place to guide the direction of the committee. We would also need to amend Title II to recognize the Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Board as one of the Harriman City Boards and Commissions. Mayor Palmer has been actively involved in looking into these committees. He has spoken with several cities who have started committees such as these to gather information to see how their committees are working, what some of the events and processes they put in place are, and to determine what successes they've had with these committees and anything that they've learned throughout the process of putting these committees together. Mayor Palmer, I'm not sure if you have anything that you'd like to share in regards to the conversations you've had.
I would just say, I've talked to all the council members. We're basically following Draper's plan, which Draper's had a lot of success with theirs. Basically, initially, it's going to be a multicultural event during our summer event during Fort Harriman Town Days. That's really originally where it's going to start, with possibly a few other things that would come before the council before we ever. This isn't going to be, it's very strictly, even in Draper, it's not advocacy. It's not an advocacy group. It's not police oversight. I think that's one thing a lot of people it's not a police oversight. This is just creating, some multicultural events to, Draper, they had the owner of one of the Hispanic restaurants came out to an event. They didn't even know, it's one of the bigger ones in town. They didn't even know he lived in Draper. And during this event, he came out and then became a very large contributor to the city, because they didn't even know he was in the city, but one of these events, he came out and became very involved in the city at that point. They didn't realize they had such a large Indian population. They did a Bollywood part of that night, and they said they had so many people come out, and again, they became involved. So I think this is just a way for people to feel like they can come out and then just get involved.
Yes, in fact, we actually had planned on having the chair of the Draper Committee as well as their staff liaison speak with us tonight, but they ended up having a conflict because they are actually planning for their Cinco de Mayo celebration. So they weren't able to join us tonight, but they are available to answer any questions that any of you may have if you just want to email them or reach out to them, and they can let you know what their experience has been like.
And I would echo, it's going to be, initially, we're looking at a 7-person board. There's no requirements on the board. We would pick the 7 people that want to be involved. So there's no requirement on certain requirements to be on that board. We're not looking to handpick certain demographics, just certain people that want to be involved in this. That way we're not specifically targeting certain, it's just people that want to be involved in this process. So
tonight we're just asking if council would like to approve or deny the creation of a diversity and inclusion advisory board.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I think there was a dogmatic discussion last time regarding definitions of words versus usage of words versus interpretation of the usage of those words. And I think we kind of got off the rails with what the purpose of the conversation was about in our last conversation. I don't think there's any debate or objection of any kind to the purpose behind what is being suggested here. And after having some kind of offline conversations with the mayor and some other members of our community, I just, for what it's worth, I'm very excited about what this board's intent is. And I think that the benefit it'll bring to the community is outstanding. And I'm really excited about voting for this tonight. So whatever that's worth.
I will just make a comment in this meeting that I made in the other, and I don't disagree, and I don't want to get off in the weeds on it either. I still have my own issues with the title of the committee, because for all the reasons I stated before, I just want to make sure that sometimes we talk diversity and it excludes some people in their minds. So I just want to just note that. And then also, the same concern I had was really being careful about government taking over a social issue, and that we make sure that we're trying hard to hand this off to our community rather than us constantly spearheading these activities and organizations. It's really, our community needs to create We Are Harriman. We shouldn't be creating it. The community needs to be doing that. So I just I hope that as you go through the bylaws and things like that, really the intent of it is to do that, to be facilitators of something. Hey, we have a park. Let's use that to facilitate those types of things, but really make it community-driven rather than government-driven.
And I think that's the entire intent of it, right? I think you hit it right there, is more people want to be involved in this. Antonio, he was here. He's the one that first reached out and wants to be involved with this. So that's absolutely the intent is.
And I think that the concerns that were raised about some of the utility of some of these organizations or similarly named groups but have different purposes. I think that the bylaws that we discuss and create will help alleviate those concerns. And then it's kind of saying, look, here's the guidelines. Go out and do good under these guidelines, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not going to get hung up on the name. If you feel like that's strongly that's what you need to do, then that's what you can do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thanks Tammy and thanks Mayor for spearheading this and getting going. I know that our community is tremendously diverse. Being in the schools and being able to talk with business owners and local people, we live in a wonderful community. And I think bringing this will give them more opportunity to feel like they can be connected and participate in the culture events for one, and then other city organized events and other ways to get to know their city better and how we can be better resources for them. And so I think it's definitely a needed thing, and the Draper's done a great job at it. And I think if we follow their example, we can prevail at it as well. I think it's your motion, Mayor.
Okay. No. I swore I'd never do this, but thank you to council for this. It will mean a lot to a lot of people in our community. And this, I really appreciate the support tonight, and I'm excited, so thank you. Thank you. So thank you, Tammy, for your help on this. I'll look for a motion then on this.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2022-19, authorizing an amendment to Title II of the Harriman City Code, creating the Diversity Inclusion Advisory Board.
Motion by Steve,
A second.
second by Sherry. Steve?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll move on to item 8.4, approval of a memorandum of understanding with Edge Homes to extend the mutual development of the Mountain Ridge 5-acre park. Chase.
Thank you, Mayor. So this item is for your consideration and potential action tonight. By way of background, there is a provision in the Mountain Ridge Development Agreement that requires the city and the master developer of Mountain Ridge to work together on a potential civic use for a 5-acre park within that development. That mutual use provision, as I'm referring to it as, is for an 18-month period after the signing of the development agreement. That period actually expired in March, but I have been in communication with the developer who is wanting to extend that. The MDA does contemplate an extension of that provision for an additional period of time. That's failing my, do you remember off the top of your head? Is it 12 months? 12 months, so for another year. And that's what this memorandum of understanding captures. There's no procedure by which it's required to extend that. So in working with the developer, we both came to an understanding that an MOU would be the best route to extend that period of
And
time.
to clarify, that's a 12-month extension from the date of expiration.
Correct.
So that's
April
2.5 years from the original signing of.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So that's what this item would capture tonight, is just an extension of that mutual cooperation provision in working toward a civic use for that 5-acre park. If you choose not to sign that tonight, that mutual provision expires, meaning that they can do whatever they want with that park as long as it's still open space, right? They still have to develop a park on that area. It is master planned for that within their MDA. It would just take the city out of that equation as to what that use looks like.
So only comment I have on that is, I mean, I'm supportive of this, but I want to make sure that we're getting this back on our agendas or following up on this over the next year to see how much focus and planning we're doing to try and figure out a civic use for that. I don't know that we've done a lot towards that. Or maybe we haven't, I just don't know. So if we can just.
Yeah, and I think there's a broader discussion around civic use and what the potentials for that mean. I think it's a much broader group of uses than I think we might actually be considering, so.
Can I just ask a clarifying question, Chase?
Yes.
We would still have to reimburse the cost of the park. They would build it, but we would still be responsible, because it sounded a little bit like, well, they'll just build a park for us. That's not what we'll
Thank
do.
you. I had that.
That's a great point, Wendy. I didn't make that very clear. That is correct, right? It's still a still a public park that's has a requirement that we reimburse.
Right.
Unless we can find a partner to come in or
Yeah,
develop a civic.
and
And I
that's
think that's going to
important.
be a focus I think that's something we need to focus on.
Because they could develop a park that's expensive and we'd have to reimburse it. So it's good for us to keep our fingers on that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wendy.
Okay, I think we definitely need to buy ourselves a year then, because I think we need to get to work on this.
Yeah, I did you too. So
Should we potentially set up some quarterly meetings or something to really figure that out, or is that, no? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
yeah.
I think that'd be good.
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with Edge Homes to extend the mutual development of the Mountain Ridge 5-acre park.
Do we need a
Second,
motion, do we need a motion on this?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, motion by Sherry, second by Teddy. Roll call vote?
yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion carries. Okay, future meetings, May 5th. Man, are we into May already?
Yep.
May 5th, Planning Commission meeting, 7 o'clock. May 11th, City Council work meeting at 5:30, a general meeting at 7. Some events coming up, May 2nd, Hungry Harriman food trucks. The 5th is community fishing, and the 11th is Hungry Harriman as well. Pedalpalooza is also coming up on the 14th. Just that's past our next meeting, but I also want
We
to.
also have a work meeting on May 4th. Gotcha,
There is a
Jackie.
special work meeting on May 4th, correct. Pedalpalooza is on the 14th at 9 a.m. Any other events?
Then soon, we're going to have the memorial breakfast as well.
Oh, memorial
So that's coming
breakfast,
up
yep.
in May.
That is a city event, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
May 30th.
Okay, I believe that's,
You want me
okay,
to
look
make
for a
the next
motion to adjourn and move it to a closed session.
I think I have this one memorized almost. Motion to temporarily recess the city council meeting to convene in closed session for the purpose to discuss pending or reasonable imminent litigation and the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property as provided by Utah Code annotated section 52-4-205.
Motion by Steve,
Yes.
Second.
second by Sherry. Steve?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. We'll move to closed.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, she added it in
Oh,
after the fact. It's the second sheet.
oh, it's not on mine.
No, but then, yeah.